The group of agitators stayed behind, apparently intent on breaking windows and destroying property. This is not acceptable. We have work to do here in the city. We need more and better opportunities for all of our citizens, but destruction cannot be tolerated.
Fox News Alert, the mayor of St. Louis speaking out after a third straight night of violent protests. Even more protests on the ground right now. We're told they remain peaceful. Over the weekend, riding police arrested at least 80 people. The clashes followed the acquittal of a white ex-police officer, Jason Stockley, tried for the shooting death of an African-American man. That happened back in 2011. Former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis is a Fox News contributor. Good to see you today. Welcome, Ed.
Morning, Shannon.
So I went through some of the judge's decision, and he says essentially, and this is a man who's been praised by prosecutors and defense alike. He's seen as even-handed. He's ruled for and against law enforcement. He said he went over the cell phone video, the surveillance video, everything that was available, and said there was no way he could find that there was beyond reasonable doubt that this guy wasn't acting in self-defense. But there are those on the streets who say they don't care, that this has been an injustice. They're done discussing it, and they're ready to move forward. There are those who are peaceful protesters, but there are those who may not be associated with them at all, but seem to be taking advantage.
You know, Shannon, I had an opportunity during the Occupy protests and before that during the sports riots that occurred here in Boston to walk in the crowds, to actually walk alongside some of these anarchists and troublemakers who are really committing the crimes. They come to these events with masks on. Their message is, we're going to do what we want, we're not going to cooperate at all, and we're going to cause trouble. And so people who are doing those things can be identified, they can be fairly easily targeted and taken out. And I think that right now in St. Louis, you're seeing the police chief acting like that. This more aggressive stance was driven by the governor. The mayor has now signed on to it, and people are going to jail, which is exactly what they should be doing. Anybody that throws a rock or hurts someone needs to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
An interesting piece out today by George Washington University law professor John Bonshoff, who says this about going after them criminally. He said rioters who violate criminal laws know that their chances of actually being arrested are small as more police forces yield the streets to their blockades, die-ins, chaining themselves to things and other similar tactics, with police often afraid to make arrests. Even the few rioters who may be arrested usually face only a token fine, a small price to pay, they often think, for getting even more publicity for their cause. And he is recommending that people go out and sue them in civil court. These businesses where we've seen the windows beaten in and property destroyed, they say, listen, go after these people civilly. It's an easier case to prove. You start hitting them in the pocketbook, it's not so glamorous.
Right, and he's correct about that. We have an enormous amount of potential to pursue these people because of video. There are two laws that could be passed that would make a difference. One would be to make it a criminal act to mask yourself, to disguise yourself in one of these protests. I think that, you know, people have a right to say what they want, but the ones who come with masks on, you know, are looking for trouble. And the other thing is, if you passed a law that identified people who were traveling from other states to protest and riot, not just to protest, because protesting is obviously protected, but if they cross over state lines and they commit riotous acts and damage things and hurt people, there could be federal penalties for that. Those two things would make a big deal. You don't have to declare a particular organization a criminal entity, but the actions of the individuals who are creating problems and causing crimes can be held accountable for that, and they should.
Well, and this just is further proof of how difficult it is for our men and women in uniform to be out there wanting to protect those who have constitutional rights to do exactly what they're doing, while weeding out those who have much different ulterior motives. Ed Davis, thank you very much.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Just one more thing. Briefly, there were 11 officers hurt last night in St. Louis. Our officers here in Boston had bottles of urine thrown at them by these protesters. This is not acceptable. We should protect our officers.
Yeah, there should be criminal and civil suits against those who would do activities that are unlawful. Ed, thank you.